Well, ask it ye shall receive, I suppose. I said early on in this vlog series that I wanted to see Viserys die one of the most painful deaths imaginable, and 6 episodes in, I get my wish. They titled this episode The Golden Crown, and the reasoning for that title is at the very end of it, Viserys is killed when the Dothraki pour a mess of melted gold on his head to give him the golden crown he supposedly demanded from them. And this tells Daenerys that apparently Viserys is not the supposed dragon that he says he's been all this time, because she says the last words of the episode are, "Fire cannot kill the dragon." And this of course happens after much earlier in the episode when she heated the dragon egg gifts she'd been given at the start of the series. She heated them in the fire and discovered that touching the super hot eggs did not hurt her in any way. So obviously, clearly this means that whatever the dragon is, Daenerys is that. Obviously, we're going to find that out sooner or later. In the meantime, we did discover that also very early at the start of the episode that Lord Stark is very much alive. He was actually only shot in the leg, the knee. Was kind of difficult for me to see that, at least from the angle I was watching at the end of the 5th episode, but still, yeah, I did suspect he was not going to die. The Sean Bean joke was just that, it was just a gag, but I pretty much knew that he was going to survive, and he is still the Hand of the King, as King Robert has essentially rejected his resignation, as it were. And this is all happening at just times getting worse and worse, because it appears that relationships between King's Landing and the Lannisters are just getting worse because of Tyrion's capture at the hands of Lady Stark. However, first I'll get this out of the way. Tyrion does go free. He demands a trial by combat, and his champion, who is actually, again, someone I don't remember his name, but he was accompanying Lady Stark, bringing Tyrion to the Vale, but he volunteers essentially because he saw there was some level of nobility in Tyrion, because he helped protect them from the ambush on the way over there. So the main thing is that Tyrion is now technically free and acquitted of his crimes because he won a trial by combat. But meanwhile, that currently doesn't seem to be helping the current situation between King's Landing and the Lannisters, because Jaime Lannister has fled the capital city after attacking Lord Stark. Lord Stark wants him to be captured and brought to justice, but King Robert refuses to go after him because of the fact that the city and the kingdom are massively in debt to the Lannisters because of all of his lavish spending. Meanwhile, the apparent patriarch of the Lannisters, someone we haven't actually seen on camera yet, Tywin Lannister, has apparently ordered the Mountain Sir Gregor to burn the villages in the Riverlands in order to send a message to Lady Stark's house. This happens while King Robert is actually on a hunting expedition, and thus Lord Stark is working in his stead. He's essentially the interim king at this exact moment, and so he does what he feels is right. He has now ordered the arrest of both Sir Gregor and Tywin Lannister. And this is definitely not going to make things any better. especially for Lord Stark's relationship with King Robert, who's obviously not going to be very happy about this, as I'm sure we're going to see in the next episode when we get there. And this is all happening just before, right after this, Lord Stark knows that obviously very much trouble is coming. At the end, he orders both of his daughters to be returned to Winterfell against their wishes because the eldest wants to be in a relationship and marry Joffrey, while Arya was wanting to learn swordsmanship more and more from her instructor. But the last thing we learn as far as this storyline goes is that, sure enough, Lord Stark appears to have discovered through that book of lineage that technically the next in line for the throne after King Robert would be Joffrey. I have to admit that's not surprising to me from some of what I've seen or heard in very brief snippets as to where it's going to happen eventually in this series. Still have some questions as to whether or not does that mean that Joffrey himself is behind the usurpation on his own? Is he being manipulated by his parents? We're just going to have to wait and see on that. I will have to say that one thing that's impressing me a bit more is that so far, as the episodes are going further, they're being more compact in the number of storylines they're covering in a single episode. I think this is the second straight episode that didn't show us anything from the Wall, even though the Wall is still shown in the opening title sequence. That's another thing I haven't actually talked about a lot, that I do have to say is very impressive. I like the fact that the title sequence shows the land of the Seven Kingdoms, and with each passing episode, that when we're introduced to a new section of Westeros, that region is added to the title sequence and shown in this panoramic view of the entire land. Starts with King's Landing, Winterfell, the Vale, the Wall, the lands of the Dothraki. I don't remember what they're called because the title sequence does them like sideways and such. But I will admit that's very impressive, and it still might be one of my favorite settings. There wasn't a ton of really disturbing material in this episode, but so I give it more credit for that. But yeah, I get a feeling we've got, I believe, 4 more episodes to go in this first season, and now things are gonna get really weird. I mean, I've talked earlier. Before I made these videos, I made brief comments on Facebook and the like. And of course, I'm recording this. If you're viewing this publicly on YouTube and whatnot, know that these episodes were being recorded all the way back in December. So I did post, I kept a lot of stuff secret as to what my overall views were there. I didn't post a lot on social media, but I did mention that how there was some disturbing material in this show, but the storytelling was allowing me to overcome it, and I got some comments from friends of mine saying, just wait till the real disturbing stuff starts. Yeah, last episode I saw a 10-year-old still getting breastfed, and they tell me it's gonna get even more disturbing. Something tells me I'd better stop watching these episodes right after eating.